Crestone is a refuge for me. I do have a busy life, and I spend part of it in a monastery, but I'm sort of the in charge person there, so I have a lot of responsibility there. And even though I practice, it's not the same, and then I try to keep some kind of practice going when I'm traveling, but it isn't until I come back here that everything stops. So for instance, in 2 days, I'm going to go into retreat with no computer, no cell phone, off the grid, I call it, and just practice. And go out for a walk every day, but other than that, just practice I have a cabin, very nice cabin, good for an older person because it has plumbing and heating and things like that. I don't have to haul water and chop wood, but it's small and just right for me, and that's where I get refreshed, you know. So this year I'm actually here for almost the entire year, and it's going to be devoted to practice.
That's so wonderful you can do that.
Crestone has 2 things that are special for me. One is the silence. It's kind of incredible, actually. When you turn off your head, so to speak, and and getting away from electronics and all that really helps you to settle down, and so you're not like spinning about the latest news, etc. So then, when you just sit and listen, you hear actually sound of silence. I mean, there's no sound, except then you punctuated by, we have these ravens here, so that you hear them, and occasionally, or you might hear other bird song, or you might hear a chipmunk chattering away, but that's like punctuating this deep silence, so you can sink into that, And the other is the sense of space. So when I look out my window in my meditation room, over my in my meditation space, I have this huge picture window. And the view from there is just, it's like looking out over the ocean or something. You're looking out over the valley, and it's miles and miles and miles, and the distance are the another range of mountains. There's a range behind me and a range way in the distance before me, so huge sky, And often, most frequently actually, the sky is this deep blue with no clouds in it. So it's remarkable. The silence and the space is just perfect conditions, really, for meditation. I have a very close relationship with Karmapas and also with the previous Dingo Khyentse Rinpoche and now the Yangsi. So with the Karmapa, the 16th Karmapa, I was ordained by him as a nun originally. And so right away there was that very close connection. And then I always felt like part of his family. It just had that feeling about it. And then I wondered when I would see the 17th Karmapa, who we are longing to have come here, what that would be like. And right away there was that sense of recognition and family, So even though I haven't seen that as much of the 17th Karmapa, I feel that very strong connection. So here we have his stupa, and the pictures are there, and it's so it's a kind of you feel like this is his place. And then the Dingo Khyentse Rinpoche, I'm now, one of my main teachers is Zigor Khyentse Rinpoche, who is the heart son of His Holiness Khyentse Rinpoche. So there's always, that's part of the MSB, that's the Mongoli Sri Bhuti Sangha's kind of like history, is talking about how Khyentse Rinpoche came here so long ago and got in this car and drove up the mountain and just wanted to keep going up and up and up, and there was no road, and then they climbed and they got to this meadow, and then he put his purba in it and said that something would happen here. And then all those years later, that's exactly the place that Hannah Strong showed to Zigor Khyentse Rinpoche to have a retreat center. So, that's part of like the myth of MSB, like the mythological history. In 2010, the Yangsi Rinpoche, who is the reincarnation of Dingo Khyentse Rinpoche, came here, and so we were all ready to meet him. And then he went down and did a blessing in that very same meadow, in that very same place. And then now there's this beautiful temple there.
I'm just curious about your thoughts about the cultural transportation of Tibetan Buddhism. We have to remove the culture. How's it working, do you think? This business of Dharma being practiced in the West by us Westerners. What are the challenges, and what do you think has really worked well?
Well, for me personally, I wasn't able to connect very deeply with sadhana practice. I have a slight dyslexia, and so I could never coordinate what I was reading with the visualizations. So I couldn't make it. I mean, the whole thing is if you can read along, and then the whole thing is coming up for you. But I couldn't. I just something to do with my dyslexia. I just couldn't coordinate them. So I did a lot of sadhana practice, and I'm sure it was very good for me. But I never really connected. So then I wanted to receive all the teachings that Trungpa Rinpoche had himself received, to a certain degree. So I had done a 3-year retreat in the Kagyu tradition. So I asked Zeger Kuntrul, that's how we first connected, if he would take me through the Longchen Nyingtig path, which is the more Nyingma. And so after it took me a while to persuade him, but eventually he said yes, and we started. And as soon as I started to do these fruition practices of just resting in the nature of mind, it just was clicked with me. And afterwards I thought, would it have clicked like this had I not done all that other practice? See, this is what I don't know. So with my own students, just because of where I am, I'm not emphasizing sadhana practice and so forth. But on the other hand, many of them have other teachers, like Rinpoche or like that. And so many of them are doing sadhana practice. And I can help them with it to some degree. So what I find is some people really connect, and it really helps them. Yeah. But I wasn't one of them. And I know there's others like me who prefer just let's go right to the essence, do years of taming the mind and training the mind with shamatha, vipassana, mahamudra, and Mahayana, which, as you say, is so important because otherwise you can recognize the nature of your mind, or you can experience emptiness, for instance. I know a lot of people who have had spontaneous experiences of emptiness who are non-Buddhists, and many Buddhists who, through their practice, have had quite sustained experiences of emptiness, but they're not compassionate in their lives, So without the emphasis on the compassion, for me, when I began to have these experiences, it was just one with compassion. I couldn't understand how you could experience this without feeling this immense overflow of unconditional compassion for human beings that we make such a big mistake. We don't understand how things really are, and we impute all this meaning and saying things are good and are bad, and creating this world with our mind, which causes intense suffering for ourselves and for others.